Hello there. As mentioned in my session this Tuesday for the ESPC webinars, I would record a video of actually making this whole Fabric SQL database mirroring thing work. If you're seeing this video and you don't know what I'm talking about, please visit the ESPC website to find out the webinar and where I went wrong. So let me quickly catch you up on where we left off when we tried to do stuff. If you were in the session, you may have seen that I was running this query, this SP help change feed, and it threw some results. That was the issue. What I had to do, or tried to do but failed, was this one, defeat disable database, then it cleans up all the resources to make sure that we can start all over again. So, to quickly recap, this is my instance. This is the database I want to replicate within Fabric. So let's move over to Microsoft Fabric, where I've got a workspace ready with the SQL mirror name, and what we're going to do is add a new item, a mirrored SQL Server item, and we're going to use the connection which I showed in the webinar, so I'm not going to do that again. I'm choosing my SQL 25 mirror connection, which is connected to my VM with the correct server and instance name, as somebody pointed out during the session. And now I can choose my data. So it's loading, it's connected to my SQL Server, and now it's checking out which tables there are. This will take a few seconds. I'm selecting them all. You can see 20 out of 21. Why? Because my fact flight data is not supported. It has a clustered column store index with it. That's not supported right now, so we can't mirror that one. In this case, I'm going to let that one slide. I'm going to click connect. I'm going to use the same name, and then I'm just going to say create mirror database. This will start off the process inside of Fabric to actually create this mirror database. So it's going to provide some stuff in the background to make sure that the data can be received and it's going to be stored. So you can see now it's provisioning the database. It will provision a SQL Analytics endpoint. It will then configure replication, and as mentioned in the webinar, replication isn't really replication as we know it as SQL DBAs. Whilst I was zoomed in, you can see that the provisioning has already succeeded and is now starting to create that replication. This part is like looking at a black box. You don't know what's happening, but we can check some stuff within SQL, because now I can check my status of my change feed again and see what's happening. It's not yet activated, so it's still connected to the database, running stuff in the background, trying to find out what's happening. So this one still says starting. This screen keeps refreshing. What I also showed you is that you could actually look at the extended events. Sometimes English is very hard, so we're going to the extended events, to the sessions. We're going to look at the mirror extended event session, and we're going to watch live data. Because when I'm watching live data, I can actually see what's happening. So right now, there are some things happening. And as you can see, a lot of stuff is happening. It is at this moment in time, so in the background, it's doing a lot of stuff. If you're interested, you can dig in to what it's doing. There's a lot of stuff happening. In essence, it's just creating the snapshot that can be replicated towards Fabric. The fact that it's working here insinuates that maybe stuff is happening. So let's see if this one result. Look, now I've got 20 rows, one row for each table, where you can see what's actually being replicated. Just workspace ID, a Synapse workgroup name, which is kind of sort of the workgroup name that should be the one in Fabric. Let's check that one out, because my group is 9D5 whatever in here, and it's 9D5 in here as well. So this translates not to your Synapse workgroup name, but to your Fabric workspace name, or workspace ID. You can also see the schema name and the table name, and here you can see the table ID. So as I mentioned in the session as well, you can correlate this. So right now I know I've got a table ID 06 that's connected to DIM Airport. So let's go into the OneIC Explorer, into my SQL mirror, and it's empty. Why? Because it probably needs to be refreshed. And this is where stuff always gets a little bit interesting to find out how I can actually refresh this, because it's sometimes a little bit quirky to get this one to refresh. And where's my refresh button? Sync from 1 week. So now it should show my mounted relational database. I can go to tables and I can see DIM, airport, and there's data in there. What I can also do is go to files, in my landing zone. Here you can see the first GUID, and then I'm going to tables, and here you see a list of GUIDs. So as we found out, DIM airport 0695, which is this one. Here you can see table data, and you can see a full copy data. Data 1 per K. I'm going to remain here for now, because we're going to update some data in a few minutes and see what happens, how much time it takes and what happens in here. But first we need to be sure that data is being replicated. So let's refresh this one, and we should be able to see that stuff is actually being replicated, which is good. You can see DIM airport has 3,378 rows replicated. It tells me it's got a delay of 38 seconds. Let's see how much of that is true. So can we actually query this? So I can see that this one needs a manual refresh as well. Welcome to one of my main frustrations within Fabric, that you need to refresh stuff, and if refreshes don't work, sometimes Control F5 will fix that for you. Pro tip, if anything fails within the Fabric portal, just hit Control F5 to find out if you can actually refresh stuff. I also mentioned that there's not much of monitoring you can see within the Fabric portal. So you've got stop replication right here. You've got a configuration button, and when you configure it, you'll get not much more than actually the data you can actually replicate. As the integration runtime is busy right now, because it is actually running the initial screenshot or snapshot, you can't change anything right now, which is fine. So this one is still running. I was hoping the tables would be available by now, but things don't always go to plan. Let's go back to this one and go to this resource, which goes back to the same part. Let's see if it's going to show any tables yet. Not yet. But let's see if I can work around that by clicking on query in SQL. I've got my schemas, I've got a DBO schema. But as I mentioned, this is not everything I wanted to see yet. So this is the part where you need to be a little bit patient, hit refresh a few times to see what's happening and how much data will be available. There we go, we've got a schema, the DIM, and I want to get a view of my data. What I wanted to do, because I didn't want to click on this, because it's fun to see this. I wanted to do this. Let's select top 100, because I want to order by DIM airport ID descending. And I want to do that for one very good reason, because I want the latest IDs to be on top. So whilst this is running, I'm going back to this one. I'm going to my add rows, and what I wanted to do in my initial demo was add my local airport. Well, my local airport, a local airport. Let's put this one quickly in the correct database. Something created by GitHub Copilot. So let's move this, or change this one to make this Schiphol Airport. Some of you may know that one. And not make too much of a fuss about the physical geographical location. I mean, you can ask GitHub Copilot to get the correct location. So now when I'm running this one, if you select everything you need, queries will usually run. I've got one row affected, and when I'm doing this one, top 10 from DIM Airport, you can see Schiphol Airport is right there. Let's see how much time it takes for that one to appear right here. Right now it's not here yet, but let's go into here and go a few levels back to make sure I can actually update this one. So sync from one lake, because it doesn't auto sync, unfortunately. Let's go to files, landing zone, tables. You can see there are a lot more right now, and it was 6.5 if I remember correctly. Let's quickly check in the correct window. 069. Remembered it almost correctly. There we go. Then now we've got a folder called change data. And this file, when I'm opening it, you can actually see the values that are in there. It'll take a few seconds, but you can see Schiphol Airport AHAM there. So when I'm moving back to this one, because this one took a little bit more time, it's not there yet. So it's there in flat file, but it's not been processed to Parquet files yet. Or I'm somehow hitting the analytics endpoint instead of the SQL endpoint. So I'm using the SQL analytics endpoint, which means the analytic endpoint needs to be refreshed. Which is something that, in all honesty, bugs me a little bit, because I'm talking to a database, not to a SQL analytics endpoint. I just want connection to the real life data. So let's quickly check if it's actually there. So I don't want to be in the files, but I want to be in the tables. I'm going to my DIM Airport. There's one part. Let's see if it arrived, because I do have a delta log, but I would have expected the second file to be here. So probably it's not being processed yet. Or I need to refresh again. So let's do that one. Let's refresh and go in here again. This is not something you'll do on a daily basis, like checking out. And you can see the second Parquet file is here. So it refreshed at 46, it's 48 right now. So this was just me just about missing the refresh. Let's see if it is visible right here. Not yet, because probably the SQL endpoint didn't refresh yet. Again, as I mentioned, this is one of my main frustrations. I don't want to talk to a SQL Analytics endpoint. I want to work with the direct connection. So when I'm refreshing this one, let's see if it's actually got the information I'm looking for. Temp airports, DIM airport, hang on, 3379, so it should be in there. This is just the SQL endpoint being slow. Something that hopefully will be fixed quickly, because this is not the best experience, in all honesty. All the rest, you can see how fast it works, how fast the information is getting stored inside inside of Azure, or inside of Fabric, to put it correctly, and you can work with it. And so this was the main demo I wanted to show you. One of the things is you can also, of course, update data or delete data. It'll show up as fast as the SQL endpoint can manage. Let me quickly check if I can manually refresh this one. Sometimes I'm being surprised at the options that are there, but Yeah, this is just the one security that you can apply on the endpoint, which is really good because then you can apply object level, column level, and row level security, which is really good. You can also use SQL security, but in this case, I would prefer to use one security because you can control it centrally from Fabric, and whichever method people can or try to use, all the security is being applied to it. So I prefer to do that one. Let's give this one more try before I stop recording and see if it works. No, still not there. Maybe a refresh here, which will be silly, but maybe it does a SQL endpoint refresh as well. Yep, there we go. So if you're missing data, you might need to refresh this one to make sure that people can see what's happening. Again, my apologies for messing up the demo during the webinar. I hope this one helps and gives you a little bit more insights into how you can actually use this, how it works, what small caveats are, and if you have any questions, as you know, send me a message on email or through Blue Sky or LinkedIn or whatever. Thank you, and see you some other time.